What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. Angry Joe has been accused of making sexual advances on a woman at a con. JT. Queen of the Feeders on Twitter, which is at Wookie Monster TV. Should give you a heads up as to what we're going to be dealing with here. This person accused Angry Joe of making improper sexual advances against her, and she did this whole Medium blog post, and I'm gonna go through part of it here with you just to catch you up to speed. Titled My Interaction with Angry Joe. I've been holding exactly who this was in for over 2 years now, but after seeing other women come forward about other streamers, I decided to come forward about the day/night of April 7th in 2018 at PAX East. Now, look, if there were actual advances that were unwelcomed and she was not allowed to leave the situation and all these other big problems, or if she was being taken advantage of because she was drunk and didn't know any better, there's a whole lot of gray area when it comes to that kind of stuff that could be extremely concerning if it turned out that the person in question actually was making advances unwelcome on this person. But that's not what this comes across as to me when I read it. I read this as someone who's new to the Twitch streamer landscape and is trying to get ahead any way they can, and that's how it comes across when I read this. PAX East was my first event I was able to go to as a Twitch partner, and I was ecstatic. I have never been and was utterly overwhelmed. I was meeting so many cool streamers and people who watch my stream that I really felt so welcomed. I eventually went to the Twitch partner party on the night of April 6, 2018, and brought along a friend I will call Alan. It felt nice having a friend I knew at a huge party like that, where we eventually met Markiplier. Good thing Markiplier didn't interact with you, jeez. But then eventually I started reaching out and randomly introducing myself to streamers and YouTubers. I figured if that didn't want to talk, she probably meant they, if they didn't want to talk to me, I'd know and leave them alone. She's already setting the stage right now that she would walk away if there were unwelcome advances, or if she felt uncomfortable, she would leave. As the night went on, I met a large group of YouTubers, some with millions of subs. I was drinking, but still very coherent during this time. So she openly admits that she was drinking, but not drunk. She was able to make sound decisions. This is when I met Joe. He asked if I was a guest, and I said I was a smaller partner, but I brought my friend. He said cool and asked to follow me, and I followed him back and was in awe because he was a larger YouTuber. Alan and I eventually went back to our Airbnb that we split after I turned down an after party from a friend because I had one too many Long Islands. So during the night, she was coherent when she met Joe, but then kept drinking when she got to the point of being incoherent. Okay. I did, however, DM everyone I met thanking them and saying I was glad to meet them. Joe ended up replying and invited me to his panel. I said sure and was clearly oblivious to what the rest of his message meant, but wanted to believe he had no ill intentions. The next day, after walking around, I get a message from him inviting me to dinner with people from YouTube. Again, I assumed nothing of it and thought it would just be people I met from the night before. So I agreed. I bring Alan with me and we sit through his panel, even though we didn't watch the Angry Joe show. So she's admitting she's not a fan of Angry Joe, but she was awestruck for his stardom because he had over 1 million subscribers. After the Q&A, Alan and I stick around, and I wanted to ask if Alan could come. Instead, Joe grabs me. Look at the wording here. Joe grabs me and says, "We have to go." And he took me. He took me. So the words she used here are very pinpointed and direct. He grabs me and took me. Those are the words, her words she uses here. And the reason why I highlight that is because I'm definitely going to circle back to this. Took me away from Alan. I look back and just see Alan staring at what just happened as PAX East security is leading us backstage through this corridor. Joe looks at me and says, "I can't believe you came." Well, according to the line before, he grabbed you and took you, so you didn't have a choice to go with him, even though if you ever felt uncomfortable along the way, he says right here, "I can't believe you came," meaning you could have not come. You had the option not to go, but we'll continue. And just smiled, and I said, "Yeah, of course, you asked me to." He then begins to brag that he can only really travel this way around PAX East or he'd get swarmed. I just laugh and say, "Yeah, I guess that's what happened when people like you." Well, okay, so she's now flirting with him. That's how I take that when this conversation is happening. Like if I'm the dude in the situation and I say something like that to a girl and the girl says to me, "I guess that's what happens when people like you," and depending on her tone and how she says it, there's a lot you can take from that. Security eventually leads us to the back door and we end up outside. He attempts to flag a cab down, but people recognize him and take pictures. He smiles and does it, then we get in the cab. So he's a nice dude. He's not saying, "No, no, no, I'm not going to take pictures. I'm with this person right now and we're leaving." No, he stops and takes pictures with people. Like, literally, he's done nothing wrong. She's leading this up, like, making him sound like he's a horrible person, but the whole time she's like, no, he's actually not a horrible person. He smiles, does it, and we get in the cab. He complains the entire time how it smells and how he usually only travels with Uber Black or with cars YouTube sends for him. Okay, so now she's trying to paint him as, like, some hoity-toity bragger to this girl. Like, it depends on how the conversation goes. If I flew in helicopters everywhere to get places and a random girl was just starting out on YouTube and wanted some help, after stuff like this happens, this is why people don't interact with other people that they don't know, unfortunately. It's why people have turned so cold in this world, but we'll continue on this. But if I took helicopters everywhere, or Uber Blacks, or Uber or YouTube cars, or limos, or whatever they sent me, and I was taking someone with me to help them out, I'd probably be like, real with them, be like, "I'm not used to this because this is how I typically travel, and not like this." So just making conversation, like small talk, chit chat, that's what I take that as. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I'm hearing it. I just nod my head because, again, I'm just a small streamer who barely had money to come in the first place and felt like I was about to blow my entire food budget on one meal to eat with these YouTubers. Joe begins to freak out and I ask him what was wrong. He started to say he lost his phone and was afraid a fan had it and couldn't believe it. He asked for my phone and called his phone. It ended up being in his pocket. He laughed and said, "Oh geez," then just plucked away at his phone. I didn't think anything of it, but realized how he now had my number. Oh my God, how manipulative. I mean, honestly, being a dude dating a girl, that's a pretty good move if I'm gonna be real here. But anyways, I don't want to sound like I'm a complete apologist for Angry Joe, but I've researched this whole story, and it is absolutely ludicrous that people are giving this woman the time of day with her story, because this paints everybody in a bad light who has actually been taken advantage of from somebody else because she is trying to clearly get attention here. And it's working. Here's a video I'm making about her. And like I've said many times in the past, any attention is good attention when you're on the internet. It doesn't matter if it paints you as the worst human being ever. Look at freaking Susie Lou, for God's sakes. Like, there's so many people in that boat that just feed off the hatred from things that they do that are either illegal or just not right or horrible or whatever they are. They don't care. They want the attention at any cost. Instead of a restaurant, we end up in front of his hotel. He says it's fine and it would only be a moment. So I get out and walk with him inside. Again, he's not forcing anything. We walk to the hallway and I stay there. But little Joe and Joe himself invites me inside to sit down so I'm not standing in the hallway myself. So I do. Again, so you have the choice to not come into the room, not figure out what's going on, not ask any questions, not say, what's going on, I feel uncomfortable here. No, just blindly go into the room and act like everything is perfectly normal here. Got you. I'm assuming he doesn't have bad intentions and didn't want to be that person that says, hey, are you trying to sleep with me? I have a boyfriend, you know, when he was just being nice. So I just stay quiet and say, sure. I'm just standing around, and he ends up taking a shower and asking me to join him. I mean, you don't just take a shower and ask a girl to join you if you don't feel like you've established that kind of bond at that point. And holy crap, you are in his hotel room. If you don't feel comfortable at that moment, you say, whoa, whoa. Wrong signals that we got here. I don't know where this happened. I don't know. Along the way, maybe you mistook my conversation for flirting or whatever it was. That's not the page I was on. I'm sorry, I gotta go and leave. And guess what? The whole problem is avoided. Like, completely. It ends right there. You have, as a woman, you have the obligation to let the guy know if they are going too far or not. Because who knows? What if you are into that thing? What if he thought that that's what you wanted? I laugh and say, you're funny. And he replied along the lines of saying he knew and the offer was on the table if I decided he wasn't joking. I mean, legitimately, this sounds like a classic situation of a couple that start to date and this is the awkward beginnings of it. Like, I don't see anything wrong at all here. I stay standing and keep pacing. He eventually comes out dressed but invited me to sit next to him. And I'm like, okay. Come on! Come on! Like, what? Ugh. So you are uncomfortable with Angry Joe making advances on you. You're uncomfortable with him inviting you into the shower. And then he comes out, whatever he's dressed in or has a towel on, whoever knows, and he invites you to sit next to him and you're like, yeah, sure. What could possibly go wrong here? So I sit at the foot of the bed and he keeps asking if I'm nervous and I said yes. I thought we were going to leave and it is a bit weird. He says, there's nothing weird, I'm just waiting until they get the table, to put me at ease. He starts asking me about how I started streaming and just small talk, then starts showing me pictures of his car and other things, but he does so in a way where I have to get close enough that I'm pretty much next to him on the bed. This dude's got some classic good moves. Like, I gotta be real here, like, he is using everything in the book to have this thing work out. As the girl, if you do not feel comfortable, let the guy know. Move away, leave, do anything, but continue to go along with his advances. Because as a guy, when you make attempts at advances, you see if the girl will go or not. Like, that's how the dance works a lot of times. He then said, say cheese, and snapped a picture of me next to him on the bed. And I laughed nervously, but asked if we could go. He said, yep, got up, called Little Joe to tell him we are leaving, and we went downstairs and got in the cab. I'm in this cab, and he's telling me how I'll like this place. At this point, I don't care how much it costs or where it is. I'm just glad someone else will be there. We've already established that there have been like 50 plus outs you've had along the way. But yet, after everything that's happened, how uncomfortable you felt, you still say, yeah, sure, let's get in the car and go to dinner. I bring out my phone and Joe tells me to put it away and to enjoy the time with him. So I do, assuming that he finds it rude, so I try to respect that. We finally get to this restaurant and Joe starts telling me how expensive it is and how hard it is to get a table. Like, you're making him sound like an absolute douchebag. I don't know, Joe. Maybe he is a douchebag, maybe he's not. Maybe you're exacerbating this story to make it sound like he's the most awful person and paint him in the worst light possible. But, like, if he is literally this big of a douchebag, What are you doing? You're trying to get something out of it. Clearly, you don't like him as a person, so you look at him as something to use to step up in the world of online Twitch and streaming. That's what it comes down to. You want to use him. I'm a bit nervous again because I didn't have much money, but I keep that to myself because I agreed to come and I'm not going to expect anyone to pay for my food. As we were walking inside, Joe turns to me and says, I have to tell you them you're my girl. And I look at him like I didn't understand because I assumed we were just meeting YouTubers. He repeats it, just said, go along with it, then drags me in. Like I have a mental image of Joe dragging this girl in. This is the girl I'm with, I'm dragging her in. Come on now, come on. This is absolutely ludicrous. I'm sure people who are watching this video that are hating on me just have this complete jaded mentality of life where every girl that feels attacked by guys is justified. You know, I got some news for you. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes their intentions are not pure. And that's what this situation clearly strikes me as. Once inside, he starts shaking people's hands and I don't recognize anyone, in all caps. He introduces me as his girl and doesn't mention my name once. She sounds pissed, like, hey, if I'm your girl, you should probably tell him my name, even though I don't want to be your girl. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing here except to use you. I sit down and try to see if maybe I can remember who they were, but can't. Joe starts talking about YouTube and his account. I quickly realize he's talking to someone who manages his account and everyone else at the table are executives or people who specifically deal with Angry Joe. I had absolutely no business being at this lunch. I stare at my plate the whole time and only look up when Joe feels the need to include me in a conversation or nudge me. Look at how she establishes the basis of, oh, poor little me, I'm helpless, and this person is just using me, and I have nothing, I can't stop it, I'm just trying to be nice, and he's just using me for... What is he using you for? Eventually, one of the execs asked me what my YouTube channel was and asked for my business card. I told him I don't have a business card and don't really do YouTube. He said I should start, and when I do, to let him know. He hands me his business card. Eventually, Joe gets up and says he has a party he has to go to. He motions for me to get up, and the executives all stand up and tell Joe bye and wave goodbye to me. Joe then turned to me and said, wasn't that nice? Then we get into a cab that little Joe is sitting into. When in the cab, Joe is talking about us going to Whiskey's for a party, and I finally think, thank God, because I remember Alan saying there was a huge party there. By this time, 5 hours have passed, and I haven't been able to use my phone once to tell Alan or my boyfriend that I was okay. And I haven't been able to use my phone. Why haven't you been able to use your phone? Because Joe said put it away, it's not polite? Have you not gone to the bathroom in 5 hours? That's legit impressive. You must have been like in a cage this whole time. Did Joe take your phone? Did he lock you up? Did he put handcuffs on you? Like, holy crap. What are you smoking? We finally get to Whiskey's and I realize it's much smaller than what Alan had described. I said, this is Whiskey's? And Joe replied, yep, there's 2 of them. My heart immediately sank, knowing that we weren't at the one where I could finally meet up with the people I knew. Oh man, she is a damsel in distress, and Joe is Donkey Kong, taking her and putting her up and locking her up, and nobody else can touch her. She is just gone from the world right now. Joe whisked me inside. Whisked me? Like, what kind of term? Are you a writer? Like, what, whisked me inside? Joe and I went inside. Joe whisked me inside? What the? And everyone inside greets him and little Joe. Joe then grabs my purse. Grabs my purse. And phone. And hands it to someone where I can't see. And eventually I'm unable to find it for several hours. Oh, did you think to maybe tell Joe that you don't feel comfortable with that happening? Did you think to maybe go to the security at the front and say, hey, I really don't feel comfortable here, could I please have my things back? Did any of that take place, or did you just assume that all your rights have been taken from you because you're hanging out with Angry Joe? Joe starts to introduce me to game developers and some of his close friends. I nod my head and say hi. Hand out what cards I had. Wait, I thought you didn't have cards. Now you have cards. Hand out what cards I had and do what I need to. Again, with the wrong verbiage of to, whatever though. This entire time, I am unable to buy my own drinks, and Joe has his hands around me or on me as much as he can. Did you ever once say, I don't feel comfortable? Did you ever say, please don't touch me? Did you ever say, look man, I got a boyfriend and this isn't cool, it's not how I roll? Did you do anything like that? Or did you stand close to Joe, feel uncomfortable while you were letting him do all these things, just so you could come forward 2+ years later and talk about what an awful person Joe is for being a guy that's trying to entertain a girl on a date? Because that's what I see all of this as. I also like how she throws in, I can't buy my own drinks. You just said you don't have the money for dinner the night before, so you should be pretty thankful that you got a guy buying the drinks for you right now. Like, what kind of complaint is that here, by the way? If I'm not glued to him, he had to find me and make it known to whatever male I spoke to. Again with the wrong two. God, learn the differences between two, and two. That he didn't want them thinking anything other than I was going home with him. I drink some, but eventually hand my drinks off whenever Joe wasn't looking and would try to find my stuff when Joe would go to the bathroom. I eventually grabbed my phone. Whoo, Joe's in the bathroom. Let me escape now. I eventually grabbed my phone and went outside. Sent a text to Alan asking him to help. Then called my boyfriend. My boyfriend was clearly upset because I hadn't talked to him for 7 to 8+ hours. I'd be pretty upset if I was your boyfriend too, knowing that you were going to another dude's place, when he invites you into his hotel room, you go into it. Like, where was your mind in all of this? Like, you are completely irresponsible and want everybody else to take blame for your poor decisions and lack of action. That is not fair to everybody involved with this. I tell him what was happening and he couldn't believe I was talking about the Angry Joe. I tell him how weird he is being, but all of a sudden Joe spun me around and started interrogating me about who I was talking to. Wrong two again. I lie and say Alan. I lie. You're not speaking up. You're lying. You're giving misinformation. Why do we know to trust you here if you're lying in this case, by the way? But anyways, let's continue. I lie and say no. Alan is drunk, so I called him because I can tell Joe is drunk and pissed. Joe then asked me what Alan's Twitter handle is to prove he is not only real, but is at PAX East. I tell him, he looks it up, then says whatever, and tells me to come inside while he turns away and walks in too. My boyfriend tells me to leave, and I tell him my purse is still inside and I need money to get a cab. I go to walk inside and had 2 people I met before stopping me along with Joe. Okay, so now she is making claims that she is being physically stopped, it sounds like. She doesn't really specify if it's mentally or physically, but she is being stopped by people. Joe starts telling me it's not safe to go back to the Airbnb with Alan because Alan is drunk and he might rape me. I say no way. He's my friend and I just want to make sure he gets inside okay. Joe starts to say, what kind of man needs help? If he can't handle his alcohol, he doesn't deserve to drink any. The 2 people agree and repeat I would be much better off staying with Joe. I repeat again, I need to get back and that friends checked on other friends just like he is doing for me. A lie, but I can tell he's furious. So another lie she's made for. So Joe's trying to make up his mind, and this girl is constantly making up lies to, why is she still there? Walk in, get your purse, get the hell out of there if you don't feel comfortable. I mean, you should have stopped it like 50 times up to this point, but now that you're at this point, you're still involved in it because you want something out of this. Eventually, 2 people went inside and Joe pulled me off to the side, out of sight from the bouncer. Everyone at the bar pushed me against the wall and asked me what my idea was. I replied, I had no idea what he meant, and he replied, you're no better than every other girl. I thought you were better than that. I look at him in shock and he says, you're no better than every other girl who uses me to get contacts and then to grow their platform. Yeah, like, That's what I've been trying to say. Like, is Joe completely innocent in all of this? No, he's not. But did he assault this woman? No. Like, there's nothing here that's assault. There's nothing here that's rape. There's just a whole bunch of insinuations that this girl was just trying to get ahead in life in streaming on Twitch by hanging out with Angry Joe, and when things didn't go her way, or if she didn't submit to Angry Joe's requests, that she's not worth anything and she gets kicked out of the side. That's my frustration with all of this here. Is Angry Joe completely innocent? No, but I mean, he's not an awful human being either. He's just a dude that it sounds like to me, not to be an apologist for him, but it sounds like to me he was just trying to introduce this girl and help her out and maybe get something out of it. As a dude, sometimes that's what guys do. They want to get some action. Like, that's what guys do. And it's up to the girl to decide if it's going to work out or not, and let things happen. And if you don't want it to happen, don't put yourself in those positions. She had multiple outs this entire time and did nothing. I'm not going to continue reading this story. It goes on forever. It would be like a 2-hour video if I read through this whole thing and tried to analyze it. My point being, though, if you want, I'll put the link in the description if you want to keep reading it. There's nothing really more to it than that moment right there where it leads up to that, where she basically claims she was assaulted. And then 2 years go by. She says nothing the whole time. And now all these allegations are going out there, and the Me Too movement is hot off the press once again. Round 2 we got going on, and she's like, whoa, I can use that situation to get attention in 2020. It didn't work back then, but now is the prime opportunity for it. So now we've reached the point where Angry Joe has made a statement refuting this, and then follows it up with a tweet saying, I also want to make clear, even in her own follow-up tweets, she walks back her story and now claims that I never assaulted her. So this story threw out some wild, crazy allegations at Angry Joe, making him seem like the most awful, vile human being that's abusive to women, that traps them and locks them up and doesn't let them even get to their phone and doesn't let them do anything, and they have no choice, no free will, it's all gone, and who knows how evil it will go if she doesn't escape from it, to, I'll be taking a step back from Twitter. It amazes me that people think the little follows I'm getting somehow outweigh all the backlash and result in clout/monetary gain. I never said he assaulted me. I said his actions were predatory because they were. Thank you too. Wrong too. Again. But holy crap, like, this girl is she's certifiably insane. Like, this is something that destroys careers, ruins human beings, that ruins everything they've put together, worked towards in their life. Years of pain, blood, sweat, and tears going into whatever company, organization, brand, YouTube channel, you name it, that they got. And all it takes is one crazy lady to make up some crazy story and try to twist it and spin it in the most insane way, and people automatically believe them without any kind of evidence or proof. It's mind-boggling to me. It sucks too, because this kind of thing will make people not want to believe other people that actually have real situations that truly affected them mentally and emotionally. This is an attack on Angry Joe. Does anyone care about what Angry Joe feels? What he went through? What he had to deal with? No, because he's the guy, and we're in 2020, so what men feel doesn't matter. It's only what the woman had to deal with. The statement from Angry Joe is perfect. It's come to my attention that someone I met at a public event more than 2 years ago, and I have had no contact with since. So he got your phone number, but didn't follow up and bug you or harass you. Gotcha, okay. No contact with since is now suddenly leveling allegations against me on social media. I want to be absolutely clear. These allegations are not true, and anyone who looks at the facts can plainly see that. Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. That her story is pathetic. There's nothing there at all. Like, nothing. I have no idea why this person has decided to do it at this time, but I'll tell you why, Joe, because all these other people are doing it right now, and this person's trying to jump in on the attention bandwagon. She doesn't care if she destroys your life. She doesn't care about the fallout. She just wants more attention on social media. It is the most disgusting, disturbing act another person could do against somebody else, and to me it shows clear mental illness, because that is not a normal act. It's not a normal thing to do. But the fact that a defamatory smear posted on the internet can ruin lives these days compels me to make this statement. Here are the facts. This person approached me and my colleagues at a Twitch party, introduced herself as a fellow content creator who was interested in hanging out and networking. We exchanged Twitter handles. She then DM'd me the same night, 2:16 a.m., asking to see me again. I mean, what are you doing? Why are you asking Angry Joe to meet up? What? I thought he was a creep. I thought you didn't want to be a part of this dude. But yet, you are the one starting it with him. And like I said earlier, it sounded like you were flirting with him in your conversation. So, I mean, just from a male perspective, looking at this as objectively as I can, it sounds like you let him on. I agreed and invited her to my public panel the next day, then to a YouTube dinner meeting with account managers afterwards. She showed up to my panel with a male friend who was more than welcome to join us at any point throughout the rest of the day or night after the panel concluded. Well, that's not what she said. It sounded like you took her, you grabbed her, pulled her away from her friend, and didn't even allow her to grab her phone at all and tell him what's going on for a very long time. After my panel, we met up with my friend, other Joe, and we all traveled together to the hotel where she chose to wait while I showered and got ready for dinner. At no point did anything improper happen. I'm glad that he said that, because people could insinuate that improper things were happening in that hotel room. I never offered or suggested sex. At the meeting, I helped her network her channels with YouTube partner managers. After the dinner, my friends and I attended another party in a public place. She tagged along. At the party, she checked her bag's belongings. At no point did I ever take her phone or purse or deny her access to them. In fact, she posted photos to her Twitter of her with other people throughout the night. I never grabbed, dragged, pushed, pulled, cornered, or spun her in any directions that she claims. I did not make her stay by my side at all times as she claims. We mingled at the party separately much of the time. Wow. Wow. I mean, Joe's statement goes on for a while here, but that's basically, he just refutes everything she says. And like, yeah, this girl, she's basically insane. And that's what I'm trying. Like I said, I read through the initial Medium post from her with the most unbiased approach I could possibly take to see, man, is Angry Joe really that bad of a guy? And I'm like, no, what the hell? Like, what is wrong right now? What is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? We need to start holding everybody accountable, not just the people being accused, but the accusers. That is something that nobody wants to say because it paints them as someone who is a sympathizer for rapists, a sympathizer for horrible people. It's like no, like there is a reason for people to accuse someone of rape or assault or just unwelcome sexual advances, whatever you want to break it down to. There are other reasons other than that actually being the case. And that's the biggest problem with all of this. This girl stands to gain so much from getting attention. And just see what it's become right now, where it's clear as day to the most obvious of obvious out there, people with a clear and sound mind that can look at a situation objectively and say, the hell are you doing with this guy if you're not happy there? If you feel uncomfortable? If you don't want to be there? Why would you put yourself in that kind of position over and over and over and over and over again, and then 2 years later come back and say, yeah, this guy is an awful human being and he did all these horrible things to me, but I didn't want to speak up about it back then, but now that everyone else is coming forward with legitimate stories, you're going to come forward with this story and try to completely defame Angry Joe, who, by all accounts, is a pretty good guy out there. And that is why I have a major issue with all of this. Well, I mean, I don't even know. I truly do feel bad for the females, the women that have been put through severe abuse, been taken advantage of. out of their control, that really truly didn't have choices, didn't have chances to stop anything. But this isn't that. And I think that's where we need to start drawing the lines of people, females especially, need to be accountable for their actions leading up to being uncomfortable. If you are not accountable for what you've done, then how can you accuse somebody else to be accountable for themselves as well? That's where I stand on all of this. I'm going to leave the video right there. My voice is starting to go. But damn, this is crazy. This is crazy. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.